first CPD webinar this morning. I'm Architect B. Suying. You can call me by surname B. Okay, I think first you should notice there's a sign-in code for this webinar. So please jot it down. And at the end of the webinar, we will show the sign-up code as well. And please fill out the Google form we share later with the code for the CPD purpose. Okay, for your information, this webinar will also broadcast in our PAM Northern Chapter Facebook page. Please share it with your friends. However, those watch from Facebook will not able to claim CPD point. Friendly reminder to all participants also, please keep your mic mute to avoid interrupt the webinar. Before the webinar start, I wish to thank for MAPE to sponsor this webinar and presenting the topic of how to overcome problems and issues with house decks. Is efflorescence preventable? Okay, tile installation was common in our design and construction practice, especially for those wet area and weather exposed area. The bonding of tiles, efflorescence, and water seeping are headache, causing issues which could plague your properties. These are often caused by a combination of factors in both the tiles installation and waterproofing works. What are the areas that we need to pay attention to avoid this kind of issue? So find out more from our expert today who will speak about the challenge involved and then share critical success factors in waterproofing and tiles installations. Today's sharing session will be presented by Mr. Yong, Specification Manager of MAPE Malaysia, and also Mr. Marco Albelice from MAPE with a recorded video. Mr. Marco graduated from the Milan Higher Technical Building Institute. He gained many years experience in ceramics, natural stones, and waterproofing. He conducts training, workshop, and provide technical advice to professionals in Europe. Increasingly, he is bringing his expertise to support companies in the Asia Pacific regions. For your information, we will have a Q&A session after this presentation, where you may raise your hand and unmute yourself to raise your question to Mr. Yong. Or if you have any question throughout the presentation, please also type your question into the chat box for discussion during the Q&A session. So next, let us welcome our PAM Northern Chapter Chairman, Architect Liao Kun Chun, to deliver his opening remark before the presentation starts. Over to you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Architect B. As usual, thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to set a few thank you. Thank you for all the attendees and for your support for PAM Northern Chapter webinar. I know it's a Friday morning, so it's a little bit challenging, but thank you very much for attending. Thank you, the Secretary, for organizing it. And obviously, thank you, Architect KC Chong, CPD Chair for PAM Northern Chapter as well. And Garis Pixel for assisting in the hosting of the webinar. And of course, thank you for MAPE for doing the webinar with us, PAM Northern Chapter. Thank you very much. One of the main architect's role is to specify and to provide suitable and sound construction details and solution for the building industry, or buildings we design really. To ensure its efficiency and functional purpose of the detail, we need to understand the materials and its performance. Tile floors are exposed to very harsh environmental conditions like heat, cold, moisture, and constant wear and tear from everyday use. So when architect designs spaces with tiling, the details and material need to be able to take on the constant exposure and use. And some of the common problems I think MAPE will probably highlight are leakages, efflorescence, grouting issues, and broken tiles and loose tiles. For me, I've always advocate that we work with the industry expert like MAPE to get the appropriate construction details that can work and can endure in the long term. You know, we call in the experts and we discuss with them. Don't try and do it yourself, because people like MAPE has probably spent a lot on research and development over the years. So they work on these sort of details in and out every day. So it's actually advisable to engage them for your details. So without further ado, I'll hand you back to Architect B. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Chairman. Next, we will pass to Mr. Yong and proceed with his presentation. Mr. Yong.
Thank you, Architect B, and thank you, Architect Liao. Yeah, good morning, everyone. So my name is Yong. Actually, I'm the specification manager from MAPE Malaysia. So it's actually great to present to you today, particularly on the efflorescence issues and also the water leakage issue. But I'm not the main speakers. I will be doing the company introductions and also some project references on behalf of MAPE Malaysia. And then the Q&A sessions will be answering by me, myself, and also the business unit managers of the adhesive, Alison Bong. She's with us today also. So before I start, I would like to share a company introduction video to you, right? Let me share the video.
"80 years ago, a group of men marked out a path, which today is the path to success. These men are still revolutionizing the building world, playing their part in the construction of small and large-scale works, from private homes to the conservation of our historical and artistic heritage. In MAPE, research is a fundamental cornerstone in order to support this progress, adapting to suit increasingly ambitious and complex projects, helping to make the thoughts behind evolution a reality. Because without research, there cannot be quality. Quality, which is a living part of each and every one of our products, and which has enabled us to become a reference point and a constant guarantee of success for all our clients and partners. Because only with quality is it possible to guarantee solutions with the capacity to actually change the way we construct and think. Organizing seminars and training courses, workshops and conventions every year for all our professionals from the sector. With a more eco-sustainable outlook to help safeguard the environment. Because quality can never disregard ethics. Ours is a code of ethics which openly declares who we are and what we believe in. Our love for sport, an aggregator of culture based on values and commitment. Our love for art ensures we are attuned to global communications. We are proud to be at the forefront where our own history is the future, a future that we can already reach out to and touch. This is us. We are MAPE.
Okay, let me share the slides. Right. So as you can see from the company video just now, we are celebrating 85 years anniversary this year. So MAPE is actually from Milan, and we have our plant in Malaysia. So around the world, we have 6 plants, and we have 100 subsidiaries, 5 continents, over 7 countries around the world. And like what Architect Liao said, we actually spend 5% of our turnover into R&D. So thus we have actually 32 R&D labs around the world in actually doing the research and innovations on our products and also the developments of the products. So we have 27,000 tons of product actually being shipped every day, and our production system is actually powerful, efficient, and sustainable. So we provide technical services to support the on-site requirements and all the requirements that we actually based on the site's requirement as well. So we also do specification during the design stage with the architects and also the designers, provide them the correct solution and also technical details and know-how, prevent all the future issues like the water pooling issue and also the house adhesive issues. We have more than 6,000 customers around the world, and we have 5,000 products like adhesive admixtures and special mortars. In MAPE, we have 24 product lines. You can see waterproofing and also tile adhesive is only one of them. Okay. And in MAPE, we actually believe in sustainable environment, and we believe in sustainability. So our products are in compliance with all the greens, and we have worldwide references, as you can see from the slides. They are all using MAPE products. In MAPE Asia Pacific, we have 9 plants in 8 countries, and we have 3 warehouses in the 3 countries as well. So we have in Vietnam, India, Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, China, Korea, Hong Kong, Australia, and also New Zealand. In Malaysia, we have our plant in Ilai. So our head office is actually in Ara Damansara. We have also a branch office in Penang as well. We have a Johor branch and also an East Malaysia branch in Kuching. Most of our products are actually produced here in Malaysia, in our Nilai plant. So because we have to be really competitive, and only very special products still importing directly from Italy. I would like to share with you some of the project reference that we have done so far. Right, this is actually Star Residence using our tile adhesive. They are, you can see the mosaic tiles mural art, right? And this is actually during the installations of the tiles with the designers, right? Yeah, this is another one during the installations. We have completed this the National Aquatic Center in Pijalil using our waterproofing and also tile adhesive with special crops as well. This is actually during the installations, right? Right from the rendering and the screen up to the waterproofing and then the tile adhesive. So we have a complete system for all. We did this Quarries Mont Cara and the Hayat in Cara, and this is actually using waterproofing and also the tile adhesive and ground. Right. These are some of the pictures showing the water features and right. Another projects that we have done is actually a refurbishment of Masjid Negara. This is actually the second time of refurbishment. As you can see, the dome are very unique. They are especially place tiles on top of the dome. These are mosaic tiles. They're using a waterproofing spray-on polyurea. You can see from the right of the pictures. Right? And then the domes is actually with the tiles using a special epoxy tiles, and also the adhesive to stick on to the top 1000 polyurea system. And this is another 5 to 6 house hotels and Regis Hotel KL. We're using our tile adhesive and ground. Right, this is a picture showing the installation at the job site. And we did the Equatorial Plaza in KL as well, using our tile adhesive and also the tiles ground. Right, this is on the pool deck. And we did Menara YTL. As you can see, this is actually using our adhesive and also the tile scrub as well. And the lobby, and they use a lot of stone and this is Damansara City in Damansara. So they are using our waterproofing, tile adhesive, and also the tile scrub. But this is during the installation, after the completion. Yep. And this is in Plaza Arcadia in Kepong. Right? We did the tile adhesive and also the grubs. Right. So it's actually a bit challenges that we will actually discuss it later by Marco on how do you actually prevent efflorescence and things like that during the installations. And we have the Central Eye City Mall. The whole shopping mall is tile adhesive is actually using MAPE. And this is the one in Kuala Terengganu, the drawbridge, or the Malaysian Tower Bridges, London Tower Bridge, right? So it is the waterproofing actually done using MAPE as well. Right. Another one would be the Encore Malacca Theatre. The waterproofing actually done by MAPE. And another one would be the Sepang International. Okay, this is actually the refurbishment on the decking. And they are using our MAPE plastic spray on. We did the KV MRT Bukit Bintang, the infrastructures, the waterproofings on the MRT station. The roof is actually using MAPE. So as of today, we have never received any complaints on the leakage on this KV MRT stations, the ground. Right, this is actually the installations, and this is the left-hand side is saying pictures is actually showing. Recently we did the Hubspring Business Park in Shah Alam as well. So the waterproofing is actually used. Right, so this is an overview of the project. And we did some, if you know, can see we have 24 product lines. We did the structural repair and the thing on all the piers, Lau Tioman Jetty. Right, so this is actually on the right side. You can see the picture showing applications of the protective coating using our products. Another one would be the funnel house in the Planters Heaven, Greece Milan. It's actually using cementitious flooring. So this project is actually an award-winning project under the category of private issues, PAM. Yeah. Project on the installations, the ultra top floor works. And also we did the C4 International School with our public code TNS system, the spot flooring. So as you know from, we also have the spot floorings under our range of products. So this is actually the installations. And we also have the resilience to actually stick on the artificial turfing, right? It's the jointing parts. So we are actually producing that adhesive to stick on the artificial turfing as well. But this is actually in Penang. If you walk on the Lango Way canopy walk, the flooring is actually using MAPE spot flooring. Right, can see from here. Right, another one in East Malaysia, the Samo Sabah ammonia urea plant. So this is actually using our waterproofing. So they are using our torch apply between this membrane. The Maple Tree Logistic Hub in JB. So they are using our industrial flooring products. So the Kuantan port is also under the concrete repair products as well. Right? So you can see just they are actually repairing the columns and the beams. Right. Another one in Kuching, the Daruhana Bridge. The coating on the pedestrian walk are using our flooring as well. Right. Big Dutchman Agriculture factory. This is actually also is waterproofing and also the KLIA traffic control tower. The waterproofing is actually, the tower is actually waterproofing. Right, you can see on And Pantai Hospital, KL, roofing is actually using a Mape plan. Right. We have the resilient flooring as well for this Harvey Norman store, and also the Southern Marina in Johor, they are using flooring. As you can see, and we have this Mahkamah Sharia in KL, the refurbishment from the roofing using our polyurea spray on. This is actually how the installation is being carried out. It's quite a challenging job because we need to, there's different substrates actually involved for this job. This is actually in Penang. It's one of the heritage buildings, the Nagara Temple. One of the earliest job we completed those days in using our polyurea system as well. Right. So I think that's all for me for the presentation slides. Before I end, I would like to play you one more video. Right, it's actually on the Mape Elastic applications. Right. Short one. Okay, so without further ado, I will pass the time to Mr. Marco Albelice for the topics today. Over to you, Marco.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very glad to be here with you today. Okay, we can start. And what we see today together is, as has been said right now, tiling deck, and I would say large outdoor flooring made of tiles of stone. And I have to say, the key takeaways that you see on the picture here are really suitable for this meeting, for this seminary, because you see the challenges of a tile deck, and I would say also for large terraces and balconies, in any place we have outdoor fixing tiles or stone. And really, this can be a challenge, a real challenge, because of the many factors that we have to take into consideration when we project and when we do the real practical application of such a flooring in outdoor situation. Some of these important factors are, for example, as you can see, the waterproofing systems or the tiling installation. By our experience, the waterproofing systems nowadays became more and more important in the stratigraphy of an outdoor tiling, no matter if it is tiles or stone or what else. The waterproofing system, if it is well done, can prevent many defects on the aesthetical surface, but also technicals. And the same for the tiling installations. Which kind of material, which kind of method we can use today. This is a detail very important because in the last 20 years, we can say, the main tile producer all around the world changed a little bit the technology, the way they produce tiles. And today you can see also large format tiles with thinner and thinner thickness. Without mentioning also the natural stone. Also the natural stone producers changed a lot the technology to produce the slabs. And in fact, you see on the market, sometimes it happens, we see natural stone slab with thickness lower than 2 centimeters, even 1 centimeter, which is very low to be a natural stone. And these details, this consideration bring us to think that also the way we apply the tiles and we do the job may change through the years. And all of this well connected together to avoid one of the most known problem we face in the job site all around the world, we have to say, which is preventing efflorescences. What is efflorescences? How can we prevent that? How do we have to make a proper communication between the project phase, the application phase, to communicate and talk each other to avoid this kind of problem? Well, when we do the project for an outdoor installation of tiles or stone, especially when a large surface has to be covered, we have to consider that this kind of application are subjected to, for example, outdoor environmental condition, the heating of the sun, the cold temperature, the high temperature, the humidity. All these things can affect the flooring. Not only the flooring, even what is below the flooring, for example, the slope, the screed, the concrete, and everything is moving a little bit. So this kind of application are subjected to a stressful, which is much higher than what we have indoor, for example. And when we do this kind of job, no matter it is a private application or a public application, our aim, our purpose is to have an application, a floor, and sometimes also a covering that will stay as long as possible, as long as the integrity of the concrete where it is applied. And if we have a good communication between the project phase and the application phase, many times this can happen. We can have job site, we can have referential applications that were done 20 years ago, even more, with no aesthetical problem and no technical problem. Anyway, we have to say that the reality sometimes is different. It's very different. Sometimes we face situations like this, where efflorescences affect significantly the aesthetical effect of the job that we have done, but not only aesthetically, even technically. The efflorescences comes out from the substrate through the grout, through the joints between each slab, each tile on the floor or on the wall even, coming out with white spots, white deposit on the surfaces. But consider that what you see here in the angles, in the corner, in the joints, in all these places is just the last visible part of the efflorescences. We have to know that efflorescences start to be created even before, sometimes even before rising out of the flooring or the covering, inside the concrete or even inside the screed or the bed mortar that we have used to fix the flooring. And in that case, the crystallization of the efflorescences when water evaporates will destroy the compactness of what is behind the flooring, with not only aesthetical defect, but more than ever, a technical problem, the bonding, the touching, an issue like this. And there are some other circumstances that can make even worse this kind of situation, which is, for example, a weakness in the substrate. A weakness in the substrate, in the preparation of the substrate, it's a problem very linked to the outcoming of efflorescences. For example, if there is a lack of cement into the screed, into the bed mortar, if there is no projecting of expansion joints, control joints, if there is some detaching element created on the surface of the screed or the concrete, all these things can make worse the situation connected also to efflorescences. Because if you see here in the picture, for example, where we have a joint, but we have a large crack very close to the joint, of course, in these points, we will have higher, deeper penetration of water, but not only water, even all the environmental condition, aggressive situation that can drop over the surface, penetrating in the substrate, and once it's inside, the situation can very, very worse. In this kind of situation, who can be considered responsible for this? We are not looking for the responsible. We are looking for a proper solution in case of these problems, even better, a proper project to avoid this situation. Look at the picture on the right. We have a joint, expansion joints, but we have a large crack. Now, some questions rise naturally. What is an expansion joint? Who has to decide where I have to do the expansion joints? And according to your experience, why we have such a large cracks very close to a joint, and behind we can see a pillars on the close to the wall? Now, I tell you these details just to get deeper into the conception that the tiling of a deck, of a large balconies, of a large terraces is not only a matter of application or products, which is very important, but also a step back to think of what are the weakest and the difficult details that we have to consider before the application. Even because there is another reason. The reason is that when we have a defect like this, like efflorescences, like cracking with penetration of water, what is gonna be to damage is not only the floor, is not only the outcome of the tiling or the stone that I have placed on the surface. Many times, everything which is surrounding the structure can be affected. Many times, maybe in your experience in constructions field, you have seen this kind of situation. Now, it's not the subject of our meeting today, but it's important to understand that a lack of good application of project in the first phase of waterproofing systems and checking details can create further problem. In this case, we have the detaching of the paint under the floor, the detaching or bubbling of the leveling compound if they've been used. And then even worse, we have the degradation of concrete. And the metal bar soaked into the concrete structures start to be rusty. And through the years, the rust will push out the remaining concrete. And then, in general, we will have a weakness, a huger damage of all the structure, not only of the flooring of the terraces that we are doing. So in this case, anytime we consider the reparation of the concrete, by chance we may have the occasion to repair this kind of material, we have to remember that they are connected to the waterproofing system that can be applied over the surface, not only to prevent efflorescences, but also to avoid this kind of final results. And in case you may decide to apply a special floor, for example, you want to fix natural stone on your surface, on the deck, on the balcony, on the terraces, good, but a lack of application of proper type of system, of a fixing system, can create not only the detachment that we've seen there, but with natural stone can also create staining problem. As you can see in the picture, this is marble. Maybe you know this, not all the natural stone are subjected to staining or deformation, but some of them, especially the marble family, can be subjected to changing the color when there is humidity under the floor. And in this case, unfortunately, there is not very much to do to save the situation when the damage is done, because this kind of change in color is not a superficial change. It's about all the thickness of the stone, because the changing of the color is coming from the back, from water rising to the absorbent marble, passing through the thickness of the marble and reacting with some components into this natural stone that, when in contact with water, with air, CO2 for example, they turn out to become yellow, red staining, and we cannot go back to the result. So just this scary introduction is just to pay attention to the details of some part of the job we do with floor for natural stone or tiling in an outdoor surface, even a large surface. Now, let's go to concentrate a little bit on the point that we are discussing in particular, which are the efflorescences. What is an efflorescence? What do you think is an efflorescence? Why we have the rising through the joints of these white spots, crystal depositing all over the surface, not only where we have the grout, the joint between each tile, but even when we have, for example, the drainage, a deposit of water in the drainage system, many times also in that place we have a rising of white spots and crystallization of this material on the surface. And anytime I wash it with water, maybe I can remove it, but after a few days, I would say after a few hours, again, we have this kind of problem. So let's try to take the problem from the beginning. What is it? Well, by the chemical point of view, the analysis of all the efflorescences that we have done through the years, but not only MAPEI, the company in this field, the construction field, that are really interested in knowing what is the problem, we analyze this white deposit, these white efflorescences in the lab, in internal lab, and with microscope, electronic microscope, to check what really is it. And in the main of the cases, the most common efflorescences we found out it is calcium carbonate. But the calcium carbonate is the result of another reaction that happens not outside, but into the substrate, which is the reaction between the calcium hydroxide and the carbon dioxide, so the CO2. What happens? Simply, the most of the cement-based binder, or would say the most of the cement-based system that we have below the flooring, they create naturally, because of a result of hydration of cement, they naturally create a calcium hydroxide compound. But this calcium hydroxide compound, when we have a lot of water into the mix, or when we have a lot of water coming from the ground, rising up to the thickness of the bed of mortar that we have prepared with cement, well, the water evaporating will bring the calcium hydroxide, which is naturally produced by many Portland cement system, up to the surface. And when in contact with the CO2, so the carbon dioxide, it changes its composition, becoming calcium carbonate plus water. But of course, water is water, and then it will evaporate, and what remains on the surface is exactly calcium carbonate. By far, your experience, and also our experience, and also the customer experience, we can wash the surface with water coming back to the previous reaction, and we don't see anything. But as soon as the water evaporates, again, we have the calcium carbonate on the surface. So, what can we find to link this situation to the formation of the efflorescences? But let's give a look to this stratigraphy. It's a very, very simple image that we can share together. What is it? Actually, this is a standard, normal stratigraphy that we find today, even today, and that has been used for plenty of years, for many years to the past, in construction fields to fix tiles. So we have normally a concrete substrate, the concrete structure. Then we have, I hope we should have a slope to evacuate the water to drain the system. Then we have the waterproofing systems. In this case, we mentioned the bituminous waterproofing system, but it's not only this one. It can be any kind of waterproofing systems. The bituminous system in rolls spread on the surface has been very, very common for many years and is still used today. But then over the waterproofing system, upon the waterproofing system, we have the screed. Or sometimes we have the bed of mortar where we will place the tiling. Is this a proper way to fix tiles? We can say, yes, it's been used for a long time and still used today for the application of some special kind of tiles and natural stone. But we have to say that this kind of system, this kind of stratigraphy becomes very suitable, let's say like this, when the thickness of the stone or the tile is higher than a certain value. Because if I try to apply a thin stone, a thin tile with this system today, I will face some problems of stability. But bringing back to the point of efflorescence, there is another thing that we have to consider here. When it is raining, of course, when it's snowing, raining, when there is water on the surface of the floor, do you think, is there any chance to avoid water penetrating under the tiles? We tried and tried many times to find some solution for this, but the reality is that water will always penetrate through the joints that we see between each tile. Some might say that if we apply into the grout a watertight system, somebody thinks of a very watertight cement or watertight resin systems to block the water to the level of the grout. Well, we also tried that. But it's not really possible because if we check the detail to microscope, electronical microscope, the edge between the tile and the grout that we think will be watertight system, no way to stop the water penetrating to the thin porosity of the tile, which is never perfectly right, never perfectly regular, and water will drop in. So this is just to say that if I don't want the water penetrating under the tile, it will be very, very difficult by the grouts between the joints, even if I use a watertight system. In this case, the water will penetrate under the tile. And consider, I was forgetting a detail that can be interesting for you. The international standard, every country has a local standard, but international standard declare that the waterproofing system, to be a real waterproofing system, should be a continuous layer. So it's common sense tell us that the grout between each tile cannot be a continuous system. So let's forget about this possibility. No way to really stop the water into the grout. But once the rain, the water pass under the tile, it will find the screed. The water will find the screed, or will find the bed of mortar that I have used to fix tile. Good. Then we'll drop down until the waterproofing system. And if I made the slope, the water will go out through the slope to the drainage system. A significant part of the water will be evacuated this way, but another significant part will remain into the screed, will remain into the bed of mortar that I have used to prepare over the waterproofing system, the support for the tiling. And all this water somewhere will go out. And where do you think it will go out? Which is the exit way for the water trapped into the screed when it is evaporating? Well, the same to get in, the joint between the tiles. And this is why we see all over the joint and the grouts, we see the white spots, because the elements into the cement-based system will be brought up to the surface in contact with the CO2 will become calcium carbonate. So in this way, a first possibility, a first solution, and let me say a modern solution that we can try to adopt to avoid this kind of problem could be this. why don't we place the waterproofing system over the screed and not behind the screed? If we have the chance to place the waterproofing system over the screed and not behind, everything under the waterproofing system will be well dry. Because when it is raining or when water is dropping on the surface of the floor, then they will penetrate through the joints, but immediately will get in contact with the waterproofing system, and with the slope will be evacuated, and everything behind the tiling will be dry. So we will not have any evaporation of water through the joint of the tiling, no efflorescences. And think in winter time, for example, we can have freezing of the water trapped into the screed. In this case, no water will be trapped under the screed, into the screed. Then there can happen some cracks, but in this case, with the waterproofing protecting the surface of the screed, no water will penetrate into the screed. So if we have the chance to apply the waterproofing system over the screed and not below the screed, then we can make a first important step to avoid the formation of efflorescences, or let me say better, not to have water under the tiling, which is the first main causes of staining and efflorescences. So in this case, in this stratigraphy, just an example, but here you can see some other important details. One of them I already told you before, the slope, because the slope is a technical detail, very important to evacuate the water. The second point that you can see is that onto the waterproofing system, here I can fix directly the tiles. The point number 3 that we can see also in this detail is that at the end of on the edge of the terraces, we have a marble finishing, but just close to the marble we have tiles. Now the question is, the marble and the tiles, when they get in contact together, do they have the same deformability, the same coefficient of deformation? No, they don't. They will move a little bit differently. So in this case, you see, we have a neutral sealant. So it means here, a deformable sealant. Normally a silicone can be applied in this place, a waterproofing silicone. But it's important to avoid the formation of any crack. Now, these are just details that maybe we'll have the chance, I hope in the future, and all with the colleagues, you can discuss in deeper. Let's remain focused on the waterproofing system. If I apply the waterproofing system over the screed, I cannot use, for example, the bituminous membrane. Or let's say better, you can use it, the bituminous membrane, but in this case, we have to remember that onto the bituminous system is not possible to fix directly tiles. Onto the bituminous system, we usually lay down the screed, lay down the mortar of bed, and lay down the tiles. But we don't fix it. In this case, if I want to place the waterproofing over there and I want to fix tile, I will slide my fixing of the flooring by using an adhesive system. Thinner mortar, thick bed of adhesive under the tiles. In a few minutes, we will go to see in details this application. What kind of waterproofing system so I can use over there? Well, one of the most common waterproofing system can be applied over the screed can be a cement-based flexible and waterproofing system. Here you can see an example. The name of this system in particular is called Mapelastic. Of course, it's done by Mapei, but the idea is more important of the name of the product. Here we have a cement-based flexible system. In fact, the Mapelastic, the mortar that you can see applied by trowel, by rolls, by brush, can be applied in different way. It's a cement-based system. And it is a waterproofing system, can be applied directly over the screed, and we place all over the corner, all over the angles, and all over the drainage points, or to the joints, expansion joints, we place a tape made of rubber to reinforce and watertight exactly that point. Because on terraces, on decks, The most difficult part to water tie are the angles, the corner, the joints, the changing of slope, all of these points, the structure is moving a lot. So we need to, first of all, water tie that point. The map elastic system is done by 3 elements. The mortar that you can see, apply over there. Then we have the tape, and then we have the mesh. The mesh, fiberglass mesh into the mix of the waterproofing. We use the mesh to reinforce it in case of any movement that can occur on the substrate. In this way, we apply a completely continuous waterproofing system, and onto the waterproofing system, directly onto the waterproofing system, we can fix tiles or stone, keeping dry everything which is below. The map elastic in particular is a deformable system. Deformable system means that allows a movement of the substrate in 2, 3, 4 millimeters without cracking. This is an extreme test what we did with the map elastic system to show that even a low temperature, high temperature, the deformation of the system remains very, very high. Is this an important tips? Yes, can be, because if we have a substrate with some cracks, or we are afraid that can be some cracks on the flooring, some movements, the waterproofing, elastic waterproofing system will not be broken and will keep the water tie of all over the system behind. The map elastic is a system that was born to protecting the concrete. In the beginning, we used the system to protect the pillars of the bridges of a very huge concrete structure. But then, since map elastic is resistant to water and resistant also to the aggression of environmental conditions, snow, wind, rain, salts, is resistant to the aggression of all of these things, then we adopt the same solution for balconies, terraces, decks, and huge surfaces in private and public application. And the system can be applied not only, the membrane, the cement membrane can be applied not only onto cement, but if you have an existing flooring, an existing tiling, which has some problems, maybe some cracks, maybe some leakage that drop down in the roof, and you don't want to remove everything. You want to leave over there the tile on the surface. Okay, no way to remove everything. We can apply the cement-based thin waterproofing system, only 3 millimeter thickness all over the surface, and then over it, we apply the new flooring. Sorry. So just to recap some advantages. As I told you, all the substrate is protected from water, no rising vapor, no efflorescences, no freeze-thaw cycles for the substrate, a compensation of the cracks in case you have some cracks on the surface, and direct fixing with no thickness of the new flooring on the surface. The map elastic in this case has been used in plenty of job sites with all the components by the drainage, by the reinforcement tape for the corner and the edges and the angles, and the map elastic itself. You see on the right, we have the proper stratigraphy that we may think to project in a balcony or a terraces. We have the concrete, the screed, and then the waterproofing system. If I place the waterproofing system under the screed, well, I will protect the concrete, but I can have a better protection, a higher level of protection if I have the chance to apply the waterproofing over the screed and not right behind it. So with this system, so with the idea of trying to change the position of the waterproofing system, applying it just right behind the tiling, we have solved a lot of problems in many job sites concerning the waterproofing system and the efflorescences coming through the joints of the flooring from the substrate. Anyway, the waterproofing system applied in this way is one part of the talk. You know, you work in construction field, so you know there are some other details that we may check. For example, how can I reduce the water contained into the mix that stays behind the tiling? We said in the beginning that one of the main problems coming from the efflorescences is that there is water under the tiling, a lot of water. How can I reduce that? Well, consider that a normal cement, a Portland-based cement, a Portland cement screed requires 7 days for each centimeter to reach a suitable residual moisture into the compound, not to affect the flooring. So it means that if I do 4 centimeter thickness of bed of mortar with a Portland cement system, I will need 28, 30 days without considering the amount of water that I am putting inside, because if I mix too much water, it's even worse. But these are long time. How can I reduce the time, the waiting time to reduce to reach the proper residual moisture and to reduce the amount of water into the mix of the screed or the bed of mortar? One way is to adopt, for example, the use of acrylic-based plasticizing admixture. These are special chemical components with a poor dosage, just 1.5 kg for 100 kg of cement, that mix into the compound, produce 2 effects. The first one is reduce the amount of free water into the compound. And if I reduce the free water into the compound, I have to wait less time before fixing tile, or I have a less shrinkage of the system, of the cement, because during the setting time and the curing time too, there is a shrinkage happening into the cement compound, and this shrinkage can produce some cracks. The admixture can reduce the amount of water, so reducing the frequency and the phenomenon of cracking of the surface. This is one solution that can be considered. Think of this next time you have to make a decision on how to prepare the screed. If I want to reduce the water inside, maybe I have timing to consider or a special job site, I can think of this. A very poor percentage can produce a very good reduction of water. And second thing, will increase the mechanical performances. Actually, the second result is just the consequences of reducing the ratio between water and cement. In this case, we improve the mechanical performances of the screed. There is another possibility, which is the second one you see here, to reduce the water under the tile. And it is using special binder. Special binder means all those binder, normally cement binder, not Portland, not normal cement, but cement that can reach and reduce the water with a residual moisture lower than 2 or even 3% in only 2, 3, 4 days. Just to give you an example in our family, but you will find by making a research for your own, you will find family like this. I give you just name, but the name is not important. Thompson Pronto is a screed, ready-to-use screed. What is matter the most in this case is that the residual moisture after 24 hours, only 24 hours, is lower than 4%. This means that waiting time for fixing tiles on the Thompson screed will be only 24 hours. If you think that a normal cement to eliminate the water into the mix requires 7 days for every centimeter, in this case, with a special binder or a special screed like Thompson Pronto or Thompson, well, all these timing are decreased a lot. In only 24 hours or a couple of days, you can fix tiles. And you may say, well, I don't have this kind of needs because I can fix tile even after 1 week, after 10 days. Yes, okay. But consider that if the amount of water into the substrate, the bed of mortar or the screed is higher than this value, not today, but maybe tomorrow, maybe in 1 week, you will face one of the problems that we have seen. Efflorescences, cracking, shrinkage, passing of water, detaching of the tiles, and in some cases, damaging of the surrounding elements of the terraces or the balconies. So the usage of this kind of material is very simple, because it's like all the other screed or cement-based mortar that you may use in the job site. Let's stop one moment to make a checkpoint on what we have seen since now. We start talking of these problems about the efflorescences. Now we have at least two options to consider on how to eliminate or reduce or eliminate this kind of problem. The first one, as we told, is place the waterproofing system over the screed. The second one is, as we just saw now, reducing the water into the mix by means of admixture or a special mortar, a special binder that provide me residual moisture lower than certain value. And we don't have to forget that these are two options that have to be combined, since maybe you are designer, project designer, and you have the chance to take a responsibility for this, which is an important part. Consider the other factors that we just mentioned: the slope, the full body coverage of the back of the tile without voids under the tiling. Also, this part is very important when I choose the method to fix tiles. So in this way, from today on, we have at least two ideas on how we can stop or reduce the formation of efflorescences on the flooring. And for any further detail on this stratigraphy and method system, MAPEI is available, and of course the local colleagues are always available to go deeper in this detail. This part about the water containing the substrate and the protection with a waterproofing system is of course linked to the quality of the substrate, because another problem that we normally face with our customer, I have to say not all of them, only in the cases where we have some defect on the surface, we discover that apart of the efflorescences, another common defect is the poor quality of the substrate. Poor quality of the substrate means a lack of cement, for example, or do you know when the applicator makes the screed and then try to make a very smooth surface on the floor, and then apply water and cement to make a smooth and perfect planarity on the surface, imagining that this will be appreciated for the fixing of the natural stone of the tiling on the terraces. Yes, will be appreciated by the aesthetical point of view, but the thin layer that you have done with cement and water of the surface will be detached. So also this is part of poor quality of the substrate. And as we told, the high percentage of water, the touching elements, and everything. All these defects can create a huger problem when water is coming. Just to give you a referential idea on what are, by an international point of view, the minimum requirement foreseen for the substrate for fixing tiles, and natural stone is very close, is the same, more or less the same application. For example, in Italy, we have a standard that requires a minimum of 16-20 Newton for square millimeter, which is 150-160 kilogram for each square centimeter as compressive strength for the substrate for fixing tiles or stone, but into residential private application. If I go for industrial environments, I will have to reach even some more, 30 Newton or 40 Newton sometimes, 300 kg for each square centimeter to fix tile in environmental like industrial application, or even those application when I know that will be a load passing on the surface, can be a pedestrian, but for example, if I make a shopping mall, or if I go the beach of a swimming pool, something like this, in this case, I need to reach higher value of mechanical compressive strength. Now, to reach this kind of value, of course, we have to pay attention in the project, writing the project that we require according the classification of the mortar for screed. The European standard, for example, is 1380-13. It's just a referential part. Maybe you can check locally what is in your country, in your region, let me say, the referential values for this kind of application. But according to this classification, in our project, by designing or just selecting the type of material that should be used in that job site, we can do a good choice by including the value of compressive strength required for the substrate. Of course, once we say that, then there is the application part. The application part phase, the application part, sometimes is out of our control. Of course, the application are doing the job as they know, as they think is better for them, and we appreciate very much the knowledge and the skills of many applicators. But when it happens, this kind of problems, we have to consider that something was wrong also in the application. Let's give a look, for example, to a very, very common substrate, the screed. The screed is a substrate that we use to lay down everything: tile, stone, wood, resin, sportive flooring, whatever is normally placed over the screed. So the screed should have some characteristic, not a perfect screed, but some characteristic fundamental, just to put some detail on the table so we understand. If I have to do a screed, or let me say a substrate, a support, and I have only 1 or 2 or 3 centimeters available in the job site to do the substrate, can I do a screed? And if yes, what kind of screed between all of them I can do? Well, in this case, I will do the bonded screed, because 1, 2, 3 centimeters lower than 4 centimeters, I need to fix the screed at the substrate by means of a latex or a resin. And what if I have in the job site, for example, a thermal isolation panel? Or what if in the job site I have an acoustic membrane under the screed? What is the minimum, for example, thickness? What is the minimum requirement that I need for the screed? In this case, when I have a flexible material under the screed, like panels for thermal isolation, then I need to have minimum 5 centimeter thickness of the screed, and not only, I need to have a reinforcement with a metallic mesh placed in the middle of the screed to distribute, to spread the load coming up onto the screed, because below I have a deformable system, and so on. We have to pay attention to these details. The heating screed, I don't know if in your case you manage this kind of heating screed, but what is the minimum thickness suitable over the pipes, over the tube that I need to have to make a proper screed without cracking? All these details normally are given to the applicator, hoping that they know, and many of them, they do a very excellent job. But sometimes it happens that these details are not known. And apart the water into the mix, then we will have cracks and detaching and the bonding at the level of the screed. And when we have something like this at the level of the screed, as we saw before, everything will pass in. Water, detaching elements, and we will have early debonding of the final floor that we place over it. So let's pay attention to these details that are not separated from what we have seen since now. Many times it happens that we leave to the applicator the choice of the expansion joints, where I have to do the expansion joints on the screed. They cut the screed, they properly cut the screed within the 24 hours after the preparation of the screed. But honestly, as far as our experience, the positioning, the design of the joints over the surface is not a matter of applicator, it's a matter of project designer. What is an expansion joint? What is the difference between expansion joints and control joints and structural joints? How can we suppose that the applicator knows this kind of detail? How can we suppose that the applicator knows the technical detail of the tiles, of the stone, of the screed that we're going to use? And if we don't do any expansion joints, then we will have a crack. And when we have a crack, a problem on the screed, on the level of the mortar, then we have the bonding of the floor. Water will penetrate and everything will be early destroyed by a defect that was up to a project phase. This is just an example on how to project a joint. We cut it for 1/3 of the total thickness of the screed, and then there is a ratio between the depth and the width of the joint itself. In this case, we have the ratio is A/2, so the depth of the joint will be normally half of the width of the joint, and in this case, we will have a good deformation and proper working of the sealant, silicone, that we will use into the joint to allow the movements of the floor without having cracks. If I don't do the joints, I will have crack on the surface. And once I have done the expansion joints on the screed, in this case, they were done. What is the problem here? The problem is that they fix tiles crossing the joints. In this case, we will have all the detachment of the tile placed right on the line of the expansion joints, because the joints, once it's done, should be respected. Should be the tiles should be applied on the both sides of the joints, but not crossing over it. If I want to cross over the joints, I need to close it. But honestly, this is another chapter. It is always linked to the preparation of the substrate, and to give an help to the applicators and also in the project phase to avoid all this problem that we've seen, so the cracking, the fluorescences, the lack of mechanical performances, we can adopt a special binder, as we said, or an admixture, or even somebody, this is a technique used in the last more than 10 years, but it's suitable. We can mix fiber into the mix of the compound. The special binder are already fiber reinforced, but if I make a screed made of cement Portland system, I can adopt the fiber into the mix to reduce the cracking, to increase the mechanical performances, of course, according to the type of job site I have to do. In a deck, in a terraces, in a huge surface, I have to consider that the percentage of fibers that I use into the mix do not have to affect the workability of the system. In fact, normally fibers and admixture may be used together to maintain the workability of the system of the screed when we apply and when we mix the fiber into the mix to increase the behavior of the material. And the last thing we have to mention, and it's very the last thing, just suggestion that we can share together in this presentation, is a reflection on the tile. The tiles have changed. The tiles have changed, and nowadays we have less and less absorbent tiles. The grass tiles can be considered not absorbent, but the single fire, the double fire on the back, on the rear side, they can absorb a lot of water. So the first two types of tiles, the double fire and the single fire, has been for a long time, has been fixed by means of a fresh slurry bond coat on the surface, fresh cement on fresh substrate, with the potential problem that we have seen about the fluorescences. But since the back is very absorbent, it's been common find on the job site and building site this kind of application of fresh mortar. But since now the grass tile has been producing large format tiles, and since they are less and less absorbent, we have to put ourselves a question. Can I apply such a not absorbent tile in a bigger size as with a normal way, so-called traditional way? This is a difficult answer to give. This is a difficult answer to give because we may say it depends on the habit of the local market, but the truth is that I can use a traditional way to fixing tiles, which is a good application if it is well done, when I have tiles or stone with a certain thickness of the slab. Because if I reduce the thickness and I reduce the absorption, the traditional way to fixing tile can have some stability problem, apart from what we have seen since now about all the water inside the substrate. This is why today, more or less everywhere, we find the new family of, not so new anymore, I have to say, the method of applying tiles by thin bed mortar, which is adhesive tiles. And the adhesive tiles that are cement, special cement binder, can give you the opportunity to have a much higher adhesion of even thin tiles, even not absorbent tiles, onto the substrate, even if it is a waterproofing system. Then we can reduce the waiting time before go in service onto the flooring, onto the terraces, on the deck we are preparing, because in only 1 day, 2 days, if we match together the propping system by means of thin set mortar, like an adhesive, in only 24 hours, 2 days maximum, we have the chance to use our surface. It's not only a matter of using the surface. What we want to focus is without problems concerning weakness of the substrate, efflorescences, and detachments. This is our main goal when we make the application outdoor over large surfaces with tile or stone. So take into consideration this possibility. Maybe you have a job site when you want to try, or you already do that and you already discover the advantages of using an adhesive system to set down the tiles and the natural stone without staining and efflorescences. If you don't have, take the chance in your project to see this opportunity, because can save you by aesthetical defect and also technical one. So I'm going to conclude, to close my presentation, just saying that the terraces, the balconies are very, let me say, outdoor application, difficult environmental, where water is one of our biggest friend and biggest problem. We need water to prepare all the substrate and everything we need, but we have to avoid the presence of water passing through the joints and going down can create problem to our flooring. And to do that, we can place the waterproofing system just under the tiling, so no water will pass through, no efflorescence will rise to the joints, to the drainage. All the system behind the tile will be completely dry. And second point, we have to pay attention and consider on the performances of the substrate, because any crack, any detachment due for example, lack of cement, lack of expansion joints, or defect during the application with the thickness of the screed and cement support, all these things can create a problem, a bigger problem to the surface, by the same way we have with efflorescences and detaching. The balconies and the terraces, whatever they are, private, big, small, they have all the same conception to have to consider. We have seen some of them. If we have time, maybe we will have the chance again to meet, to focus on some other details. Today we have seen the fixing system, the waterproofing, but consider the chance to have special grouting, how to manage the details like the breaking point into the thickness of the stratigraphy of the waterproofing, or the thickness of the screed, or the concrete itself. And what about the right placing of the joints, etc., etc. So all these things will help us to make something that stays and lasts as long as possible. I really hope that this kind of information, these are just tips, just point on you can reflect on and think if you have the chance to adopt some of them. We, as MAPEI, with our technical service, local technical service headquarters, always are very interested in knowing how you do this kind of application, to update also our system to propose to the market and to you. But so we need a real feedback from you on this. And by your side, if you find some interesting point or idea, or you have any doubt, please do not hesitate to contact our local colleagues, or if you want to write directly to us, there is no problem. So I finish my presentation. I thank you very much, all of you, for the attention that you have paid to this presentation. Thank you very much for our colleagues in MAPEI to give us from the headquarters to have the chance to be here with you to share this information. And by my side, that's all. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you soon again. Bye-bye.
Thanks for the informative and comprehensive sharing by Mr. Marco from MAPE on the problem and issue on cow deck. Also the solution by MAPE. So I believe most of us learn more about the reason of efflorescence issues on tile surface and some tips to overcome on it or to avoid it. I think do not wasting time. Now we start our Q&A session. And Mr. Yong will answer to any question raised. So, okay, there is. So, whoever has any question to our speaker, there is a raise hand button at the middle below the screen. So just press it, and you can actually, then you call your name, and you can unmute yourself to raise the question, or you actually can type in the chat box. So, any question from the participants? Okay, so I hope you can raise your question to MAPE so they can actually answer your concern, your query now.
Architect B, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Mr. Yong, is it?
Yeah.
Hi. Normally in the construction of the floor, I mean, traditionally, we apply the waterproofing onto the surface of the substrate, which is the concrete.
Okay.
Right? And then we put in what we call a protective screed, maybe 50, 60 mil.
Right.
And then on top of that, traditionally, we obviously put the adhesive and then the tiles on, correct?
Right.
But what Marcos has just recommended, actually, we reverse it. We actually put the waterproofing on top of the screed.
Right.
And then on top of the waterproofing is the adhesive and then the tiles.
Right.
Now, is it only applicable to membrane or in situ, sort of like water-based? Because when you put your waterproofing, which is not membrane, onto a screed, it will just soak through the screed, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you overcome that? I mean, putting the membrane on top of the screed.
Right.
The barrier on top of the screed. Thank you.
So your question is it okay to apply the waterproofing onto the screed instead of traditionally we are placing the waterproofing membrane underneath the screed?
That's right. Yeah.
So basically, yes, it's actually workable. And what actually Marco has actually highlighted is that if our concern is actually mainly on to address the issues of the efflorescence, and also if let's say the roof is actually a tile roof, then our recommendation is to actually place the waterproofing membrane as close as possible to the water source. That means in this case, it is actually directly onto the screed, and then on top of that, it's actually direct overlaid with the tiles. The reason being is actually to, as what actually Marco has highlighted, the efflorescence actually happen because of three scenarios. One is actually the presence of water. Number two is actually if there's a weak point or any leakages or honeycombing, and then the water can actually go in through the water path. The other one would be the cement binders or the free limes in the cementitious product that we use. So if any of these trees being actually eliminated, any of it, so we actually then the efflorescence will not happen. So in this case, if we place the waterproofing layer onto the screed, so we are actually stop the water from in contact with the screed. So indirectly, we actually reduce a lot of issues and problems on the process because the water may not be reacting with the free limes in the screed. You see, and the screed is actually a main chunk of the culprits of the efflorescence. So in this case, our waterproofing layers, like my video earlier on, you can actually use Albelice. So you cannot use our conventional ways of the what do you call that, the bituminous membrane, because it will create a debonding layers, because it cannot bond well with direct overlays of tiles in this case. So cementitious, like the elastic cementitious product like or multi-elastic, would be a good choice to direct overlay with tiles to receive tiles with the adhesive on top directly onto the waterproof. So I hope I answered the question.
Thank you very much. I think it's very important that you mentioned that some materials, when you actually put the adhesive against the tile, there's a lot of movement to it. So only maybe a certain type of material from MAPE will able to let the adhesive and the tiles stick together without moving too much.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So if the first choice of your material is actually the cementitious based material, not all types of waterproofing can actually do that.
Yeah. So we got to be careful what we put on top of the screen, not simply put any waterproofing material.
Yes, and the choice of your roof is actually a tile roof. Then it's actually yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
No problem. So it's also applied to the terraces as well, into your pool deck. I think in this case, not necessary to be a flat roof in this case, right? So you see mainly on the pool decks, it's actually a lot of issues with efflorescence. So basically, if you do that, you are also minimizing the efflorescence issue in this case, right?
Thank you.
No problem. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Yes, there is anyone? Yeah, Mr. Lim there raising. Yeah, you can actually raise your question.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Yong. Hi, Leonard here from the director. Hey, just to add on to what you have just explained, putting the waterproofing membrane on top of the street, right? And in the event, right, when during defects like ET or during the just newly completed buildings, right, if there's a defect on the tile, right, and the contractor needs to remove the tile to replace it for any defect reason, then it will also damage the waterproofing layer underneath the tile, right? So how do you address that issue to ensure that the replacement tile, right, will also treat the waterproofing layer as well?
Right. Good questions, Leonard. So basically, this is actually a chicken and egg questions. Basically, then we have to go back to the questions again. Whether efflorescence is actually your main concern or the waterproofing issues is actually your main concern in this case, right? So if let's say the efflorescence is actually our main concern in this case, so placing the waterproofing layer on top of the screen is actually the most the first priority. So if let's say everything to be designed is actually meant for lasting. Actually, if they actually apply correctly, there shouldn't be any tiles actually popping up or the tiles actually falling off and repairing. So that required any repairs in the first place. So, but anyway, in Malaysia context, I truly understand where you're coming from. And that's why the questions go back to whether efflorescence is actually the main concern or the waterproofing is actually the main concern. Or nonetheless, it can be still repaired by applying. We see the waterproofing is actually still is actually a cementitious based material. It's actually, you can apply it by brush or trouble application. So you can do a local repair on the falling off area. Maybe you can actually do a wider area. And that area is actually apply the waterproofing, then only stick back the tiles. I think that should be also working. I hope I answered your question then.
Yeah. Because sometimes, right, it's like the tonality of the tiles, because of the tile tonality doesn't match very well, right? Then we will ask for the tiles to be replaced. So in that case, it will damage the water layer.
Yeah.
But in most situations, our main priority will be the waterproofing system from it's not the main priority will be the waterproofing system of that area rather than the efflorescence first. So yeah. I would still put the membrane right underneath the concrete most of the cases.
Yeah. So again, like what I said earlier, it depends on which one is actually more priority to you. As in, if let's say the efflorescence is actually the main concern, especially on the pool deck area, then I would say it should be placed as close as possible to the water source line, on top of the street in this case. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so let's say for example, the pool deck area, because let's say whatever underneath the pool deck, it could be a multi-level car park or even a
right.
unit, right? So then we could, if budget is not the issue, we could put 2 layers of waterproofing, right? One underneath the street and one underneath the house, just to prevent the efflorescence.
Yeah, good suggestion. But then again, it's actually the cost now. Nowadays, people are placing 1 layer is already like making a hoo-ha, cut this, cut that, and then they want to think. And if you are placing 2 layers, whether the budget's actually allowed for in this case. Yeah. So to go back
put
to
a cheaper layer on top lah. Put the better one.
Well, if you say putting a cheaper layer, in this case, I believe you're saying putting a rigid cementitious products. So it doesn't work in this way in that case, because the rigid waterproofing cannot be exposed to weather. So it may actually crack. So it defeats the purpose of waterproof decks onto the screed. Moreover, the screed is actually subject to thermal stress. So then an elastic and flexible waterproofing cementitious product is actually more preferred in this case. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Right. All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Leonard. Thanks for your questions. Yeah, that's actually a valid question anyway.
Yes, I think we have a question from Architect Low.
Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Yong.
Hi.
Just now I heard the speaker saying that the workability of the waterproofing is largely depending on the applicator.
Right.
So I'd like to know whether MAPE actually only supply the product for any contractor to lay, or MAPE also do supply and lay. Because, and on the other hand, what I'm trying to ask is, how does MAPE ensure the workability of your waterproofing system in the market?
Right. That's actually a valid question as well. Thank you, Architect Lu. So, yeah, we only do supply in this case because we are a manufacturer. We don't do application. That means supply and lay. Especially for tile adhesive, we only do supply. So the tilers will be doing the application. As for waterproofing, same thing. We also have our panels of applicators that they actually, come to our trainings and they have undergone our trainings. And then only we actually give them the approved applicator letters to do certain jobs. So the applicator letters is actually not like, one letter set that you can actually do for all the jobs. So do check with us whether when the contractors actually submitted to you, whether these ABC applicators and so it is actually our approved applicators. And of course, we also, if given a choice, we do not want, non-approved applicators and also the contractors to apply, because these are very special, need to be taken care of. So they need to be well trained before they can actually do our waterproofing products. Okay, so the trainings are provided to ensure, and then also we have, like in the earlier slides that I shared, we have our technical service team that actually go down to the sites periodically to check on the performance on the applicators, and also during or even before the installations, there is actually briefing given out to the jobs, the site personnel, so that they are aware of what are actually things that to be need to be take notes and attentions on the detailings and things like that, right?
Okay. In the event the work is carried out by your applicator, normally how many years of warranty does the waterproofing carries by MAPE?
Right. For standards, new projects, we are given 10 years warranty. Yeah. In our sites, we give product warranty from our side, from MAPE, and applicators actually giving the performance warranties. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Thank you, Architect Lu.
Okay, thank you, Architect Lu and Mr. Yong. So we have a question from Gang here. Is asking about for marble finish on floor slab, is it better to apply waterproofing coating at marble house finish, contact to the floor slab or on the floor slab? What is the choice of waterproofing coat recommend?
Marble finish on to the floor slab or on to contact to the floor slab or on the floor slab?
Yes.
Quite confused at this question. Contact to the floor slab or on the floor slab. That means it's actually on the floor slab in this case, right? Or he actually meant something else.
I think
Architect Gan, maybe you want to unmute and ask
yes.
Verify.
Hello, I'm Gan here.
Yes, hi, Gan, yes.
Hi. Actually, my question is that whether the surface of the marble itself, which is on the side and the bottom, to apply the waterproofing, or you just apply on the floor slab itself. So it's
okay. Okay, I got it. Okay, so you're saying, I think you meant actually to apply the waterproofing onto the surface of the five sides of or every sides of the marble. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I think that is actually not waterproofing. Basically, that is actually we call it impregnator. So we usually leave it to the marble contractors, whatever they actually require. But again, MAPE has said these kind of products are for impregnator. But what we actually recommend is not to apply onto the back of the tiles, because the back of the tiles will actually prevent it will actually interfere with the bonding with our tile adhesive. So we do not know. And also, especially if there is actually adhesive, the nettings on the marbles, these will also, the adhesive that actually stick the netting on the back of the marbles or the stones. This has to be really removed and then grind it off before applying the, sticking onto the slabs. So again, the waterproofing layer still can be applied onto the slab. So in this case, we can actually apply after the leveling screed or directly on the RC, apply the layers of because the screed will still there's a residual moisture inside. So that's why we still need to apply a layer of marble elastics on top before receiving the marbles. Yeah, then the impregnator can actually apply on the five sides of the marbles. That means the top and the four sides. Yeah, not the bottom. That we don't recommend in this case.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, and then you have one more questions, right, on the planter?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so the questions is for planter, box, stone cladding, and external. What are the choices and types of waterproofing at the planter internal surface before drain cell and planting material installed? Okay, so this waterproofing on the planter, it's actually against on whether the selections of the choices of the plants. We can always check with the landscape. If there's a landscape architect here, I believe they have their they will determine actually whether the selections of plants required root resistance waterproofing in this case. So if let's say the roots is actually aggressive as determined by the landscape architect, then you can actually use our choice of waterproofing, which is actually root resistant. We have the spray-on polyurea, the Per-Top 1000. We have the TPO membrane, which is actually the root resistant as well. We have the bituminous 4 mm thick bituminous membrane in this case, which is called the anti-radius PEP. Yeah, that is actually, and also we have another one which is a less aggressive one, like the liquid applied hybrid PU bituminous membrane as well. Right, so that's the choices. So in this case, we really need to understand what are the selections of plant before we propose accordingly. Yeah, and then you say stone cladding external. Yeah, that's the if let's say there is cracks and things like that, then they need to actually place it correctly. The types of adhesive to stick on the external, in this case has to be S1 or S2 products. Right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Architect Gan.
Thank you, Architect Gan and Mr. Wong. So, are there any other questions from the floor from our participants? If there are no more questions, then we may actually proceed with this survey.
Maybe I want to add on to what Marco has mentioned in the presentations. So basically, like the questions actually raised by the floor just now, that the concern is whether which one actually should come first, to place the waterproofing layer on the screed. And of course, I truly understand the Malaysia context. Our screed qualities is actually, is questionable. So because it's usually doing a site mix. So what we understand here, the site mix actually has a lot of issues on whether they actually makes a correct proportion mixture. It's 1:2 cement sand. So this will actually also determine the needs of the whether the waterproofing can actually place on top of the screed. So nonetheless, we have options for that actually. So like what actually Marco has highlighted, we have special binders cement sand screed, okay, a pre-packed screed, like in this case we have Top Gem Pronto that has a better compressive strength and also less water in this case, because during the hydrations of the cements and the mortars, it will actually create more shrinkage. So if let's say this is actually being controlled in the first place, we are using a pre-packed screed, then the shrinkage factor actually can be minimized. So as we know, when there's cracks, the water can actually, you're inviting the water to come in to the screed and to the substrate. So by using pre-packed mortars, it will also help to reduce prevent or reduce the chances of getting the efflorescence. And oftentimes, I also get questions like, if let's say the efflorescence already taken place, how do we actually, how do we overcome it? How do we solve it? The answer is actually very hard. Like what Marco has highlighted, we need to actually we have to determine in the first place what to the layering. Okay, so if it's already taken place, because we don't know how long the process will be for the free lime to react with the carbon dioxide in the screeds and things like that. So that's why do it in the right place. So and then a correct sequencing is actually will actually help to prevent this efflorescence. And again, if you look at the cost, it is actually it doesn't actually cost you extra cost, because we are placing the layers of waterproofing on top of the screed rather than placing down. Yeah. So in terms of cost, I think it is not an issue. Okay. So back to you, Architect B, to if there's any questions.
Before finish, I want to raise a question also. Right. I just wonder, is this the choice of tiles? Bigger tiles or smaller tiles, or thicker or thinner tiles, will affect the efflorescence issue?
Actually, no. Because like what actually Marco has highlighted in the presentations, you see, even we have, the markets, people claiming that they are using a waterproof grout, either grouts are being, even the resin grouts which we have, you see the water can still actually penetrate through the microporosity between the tiles and your tiles grout. So that's actually water can still stick through. So that's where the water are really smart, then they can actually find ways to go in, even a very fine micro pore in between the tiles joints. So that's why irregardless whether thin, big tiles or whatever, but of course, if you're using a bigger format tiles, then the joints are lesser, I would say. But theoretically, it doesn't make any difference. The layering more important if you understand the fundamental, right?
Okay, thanks for Mr. Yong. Okay, so is there any question? If not, then we may end this Q&A session. Then next, Mape will share a link, a QR code for the participant to join their survey. So yes,
Okay, can you see?
yes.
Yeah, so we appreciate if you can give us your feedback for this webinar, either by scanning this QR code or the link at the chat box. We also put in the link at the chat box by the organizer. From the feedback, we are going to select 10 lucky participants to win this particular coaster. We have did a CSR program with a autistic center, whereby we supply our ultra color plus ground to them to ground the coaster with all the mosaic tiles, and this will help them to sell as well. So we also buy some of their work and then give away to the architects. Yeah. So this is one of the products. It's a good gift for Christmas. If you intend to buy from them also, you're most welcome. So we're going to send to 10 lucky participants for this purchase from the autistic center.
Okay, thanks, Cynthia. So please, for participants, please scan the code and submit your survey. So we will stand a chance for this special gift from Mape. So, and we Camp chapter also will announce for the 10 special winners at the letters. So, okay. Before leaving the webinar, also, can we all the participants to turn on your video to take a group photo?
I can stop sharing now, right? Or
yes, I think most of them should be already scanned. Yes.
Okay, everyone ready? All right, ready? Okay, everyone smile. 1, 2, 3. And then the 1, 2, 3, and then pass out 1, and then 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, guys, terima kasih. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
for
you
the
very much, everybody.
Mape already shared the link for the survey in the chat box, so you can actually click from there also. So before leave, also I wish to take this opportunity to thanks again to Mape to sponsor this program and share their knowledge. So thank you to Architect Chong, our education chairman, to arrange this event, and not to forget our secretariat and support from Garis PXL. So okay, thanks. And for participants, please remember to jot down the sign-up code and fill in the Google form for the CPD point. Thank you, everyone.